So, first of all, what are the social sciences? So, basically speaking, the social sciences are fields that study society. It often is used as an umbrella term to refer to multiple academic fields that are not the natural sciences. So, the natural sciences, we're talking about biology, chemistry, physics, those are the natural sciences, zoology. The main social sciences are sociology, psychology, anthropology, economics, and political science. That's what we're covering here at Newlane as the social sciences. But you'll often see in the literature or in other universities, you'll see history, communication studies, education, linguistics, geography. You'll see all of these other disciplines lumped in with the social sciences. So the social sciences basically, like I said, is anything that covers society or culture and is not but that follows a scientific method, but doesn't actually fall within the realm of the physical sciences or the natural sciences. So another definition of the social sciences is that it is the field of human knowledge that deals with all aspects of the group life of human beings. And it is important to note that it is subject to change with the changes in human behavior. So as a sociologist, I can tell you that sociology has changed radically since, for example, the 60s. And it's changed radically since the beginning of sociology, which was in the 17 and 1800s. So as social life changes, so does the social sciences. So why does social science matter? Why do we even study the social sciences? It matters because social science has a direct connection with social problems, and social problems should be a high priority for all of us, both social scientists and those of us who aren't social scientists, people who are citizens and are concerned about social problems like homelessness, like problems in education, like political problems, like world issues such as impending wars. All of these problems are things that social scientists study, and these social problems and social science are directly linked. So I'm going to run down just a brief definition of each of these social sciences. This is going to go really fast. I want to spend the rest of the lecture on the rest of the objectives. But basically, what is sociology? Sociology is the study of human social relationships, social systems, and social group behavior. It is a systematic study of society and human social action. So basically, what that means is it's a scientific approach to society. Sociologists consider themselves scientists. We use a scientific method, and we look at social systems and social groups, and we look at how do these systems, how do they work together. Sociologists look at things like power, system dynamics, relationships, both relationships between small groups of people and relationships on a large macro level. We look at things like communication styles and how we exchange information with each other. We look at things like social phenomena, even such as love. Sociologists might even study love. We study things as diverse as pop music to power structures to global poverty. Sociologists basically study almost everything because sociologists study society, and everything is encompassed within society. The next social science that we're going to talk about is psychology. So, if you think about sociology being the study of groups and large group behavior, psychology is the study of individuals. So, it's the study of human souls, minds, behaviors, and personality, and how these are impacted by the individual's environment. One thing you'll notice as I go through this lecture today is that there's a lot of overlap between the social sciences. And one of the struggles that we all have as social scientists is, where does sociology begin and psychology starts? And where does psychology end and anthropology start, and econ and political science and history? They're all kind of lumped together, but you'll see as we get into the case studies that we all have a slightly different approach to studying the same questions. So, for example, a sociologist might study homelessness, and a psychologist might study homelessness. The difference is that a sociologist is going to study something like the social causes of homelessness, or the overall experience of homelessness, or the services offered to people who are homeless. Whereas a psychologist might study, what is it like to be homeless? How does an individual experience homelessness? How does that impact the individual's self-esteem? How does that impact an individual's personal relationships? That's what a psychologist might do when they're studying homelessness. The next social science that we're going to look at is anthropology. So, anthropology is the science of the totality of human existence, going back to the very, very, very beginning of mankind. So there's three different subgroups of anthropology. Physical anthropology, which looks at how the physical structure of men and women have changed over time. So looking at beginning at the Anthropocene era, looking at, for example, Cro-Magnon man, and even earlier than that, and how our human bodies have evolved. Cultural anthropology looks at culture, looks at things like food and music and politics. And archaeology, you're probably all familiar with, is also considered a part of anthropology. And archaeology is the actual studying of physical objects, usually that have been buried in the ground for a long time, and using dating methods, try to discover things about both the physical and cultural aspects of people's lives in ancient history. Economics is the study of production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services. Now, again, these are things that sociologists might study, political scientists might study, but economists are going to take a slightly different approach, and we'll see that later. Economists are going to take a slightly different approach to the production, distribution, and consumption of goods and services than a sociologist might, for example. And the last social science that we're going to cover here in this class is political science. So political science looks at the state, politics, power, and law and ideology, and it basically looks at the social arrangements to maintain peace and order within society. And again, I really want to emphasize that all of the questions that a political scientist might ask, like they might ask, how does a particular person rise to power? So a political scientist can ask that question, and they're going to look at it from a viewpoint that's very different from the way a sociologist might ask the same question, or an anthropologist might answer the same question, an economist or a psychologist would ask the same question. So all of these social scientists can ask the same questions, but we're going to approach it from a different way. We're going to use different methods, and we're going to ask different people, but we're going to maybe ask the same question, but we're going to have perhaps different answers, different nuance to the answer, and we're going to use different methods.